Welcome to the MTD Podcast. I'm Giovanni Albanese, hosting today's show, a passionate engineer and a very proud member of the MTD team. Today I'm privileged and really excited to be at the home of Napier Turbochargers, a world-renowned company that manufacture turbochargers for large marine applications and power generation applications. It's a very niche business. And we're going to find out how these turbochargers are manufactured, the complexity of components. And I'm joined by two very special guests. My first guest is Dan Seven, manufacturing engineer, who's been at the company for 9 years and done his full apprenticeship at the company. And we're also joined by Carl Downing, solutions provider for GROB Machine Tools UK. Now, Dan, I'm going to start with you. Firstly, thank you very much for opening your doors to MTD CNC and for letting us be part of this kind of journey, if you like, into Napier and the evolution of the business. Dan, tell us a little bit about yourself and welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on, Joe. It's a pleasure. It's been a good day having you at site. Like Joe says, I spent 4 years doing my apprenticeship here at Napier through various roles an apprentice does, mainly through the machine shop. And then towards the end of my third year, I was lucky enough to have a placement in the manufacturing engineering department. And then I've stayed here ever since. And then since then, I've carried on through university, sponsored by Napier. So I've been very fortunate in that respect.
No, thank you, Dan. Now, the purpose of this podcast for all our listeners is not only to find out how these large turbochargers are manufactured, but to discuss how the process development of these chargers have been improved by a challenge that was given to GROB Machine Tools UK. Now, these particular turbochargers, it's a very niche market that didn't necessarily have to improve their process, but Dan was instrumental in kind of taking it upon himself to do so. And this brings you into the podcast, really, Carl, and GROB Machine Tools UK. You were challenged from Dan, if you like, to improve a process that was in place for many years. It's something that was a proven and reliable process. Tell our listeners about it.
That's really one of our greatest strengths. We thrive on that. We love it when different sectors or different industries or engineers come to us or come to our front door and say, right, we've been doing this particular process for umpteen years. Yes, it works. Yes, we know it does, Rob, but we challenge you to improve it and prove to us that your concept is the best on the market or can improve it to a degree where it will make us rethink the way that we do things. And that's what we've done.
So, Dan, let's start at the very beginning. What problems did you see for you to think, right, I need to improve this process, or, I can improve this process? And what attracted you to GROB? How did you and Carl meet?
So, I think from one of the C Code Innovation for Inspiration days, one of the engineers brought back the GROB leaflet, and it kind of kicked around the office like leaflets do. And we got an inkling a few months before that maybe it's manufacturing, what we do, we could improve. It's not been looked at for a while, so we had an idea that maybe there's room for improvement. Sorry, I'm totally rambling on a little bit there. So we started looking at machine tools, and someone said, well, why don't you try GROB? So we didn't know how to get in touch with GROB, so I went to LinkedIn. The first person I found on LinkedIn happened to be Carl, dropped him a message, and literally the rest is history, and here we are.
Because I'm always on LinkedIn.
Like me now, I've become addicted.
Well, I think that it's an absolutely fantastic engineering platform. I mean, I'm on it all the time. I haven't got none of my friends on there whatsoever. It is literally just business.
It's so accessible and easy. We literally had a couple of messages, didn't we, Dan? Back and forth, and we just got chatting, and literally the working relationship, we haven't looked back since, really.
No, it's always been easy, and LinkedIn's a great way to have a quick chat, isn't it?
I think we arranged a visit to come see you, introduce ourselves, present the product, the concept, from a brochure point. But then luckily, Daniel and Pete gave us the opportunity to arrange a visit to Seiko Tools, where again we got a full day to showcase the G450T. We got the opportunity to open the doors, open the machine, and really explain and showcase to them in front of them exactly why we do what we do and why we're good.
And you had full confidence that you could achieve?
Full confidence in the machine and everything. And again, it wasn't, I think, at the start, obviously, it was just about proving our concept as a machine to achieve what Dan needed to achieve. But then as the time went on, Dan also got to see the bigger picture with regards to GROB, with regards to the Industry 4 packages, with regards to the service, the response, the support, and again, coming back to the solution, not just that machine tool as it stands, but everything as a package, really.
No, it's fascinating. So let's step back one bit. You identified a potential improvement within already a massively successful business. Yep. You took it upon yourself to investigate this potential improvement. You met with Carl from GROB Machine Tools, and you aired your kind of idea and your thoughts to him about this. And some people may shy away from the GROB that have never seen this type of technology before because it's so kind of new, if you like, especially if you've not used this kind of technology. But this actually attracted you to it. Tell us a little bit more from your side, Dan. You know, how did you start then from an identification, from a thought? How did you start making this kind of into a reality? And this challenge to our listeners, by the way, is not something that is still in a process. This is now being completed and it's been very successful, and we'll be going into the kind of outcome very shortly. But can you just go into a little bit more detail, please, Dan?
Yeah. So me and the other engineers here, because there's a team of 6 of us here at Napier, we started to get an inkling that we weren't behind, but there was room for improvement. So we looked at cutting tools, looked at equipment we got, and sort of come to the conclusion that, well, let's look at the whole thing as a clean sheet of paper and see how far we can get. So we basically almost plucked a number out of the air of what cycle time we thought we could get, and we basically just went to a lot of the big OEM machine tool manufacturers and said, "Do you think you can hit this?" And Carl and GROB were one of the ones to come back the quickest, the most confident that, yeah, we can do that. And then from then it was basically us. We just said, show us them.
So time scale wise, from when you met Carl and GROB Machine Tools, how long from that initial kind of contact to completion and the installation of 2 machine tools, and we'll go on to how successful they've been shortly, so I don't give everything away. But how long did this process take?
It was 18 months, and there was probably Carl will agree on this. Some of that 18 months was taken up by the COVID situation. That
100%,
did
100%.
slow things down a little bit, as it did for a lot of people. So, I mean, if we look back through when we first started, from the initial conversation to us visiting Seiko and seeing the GROB for the first time, that was probably 6 to 8 weeks. And then we went down the cutting route trial, and that was, within 6 months of the initial conversation. That was done at Mindleham.
Again, so then we arranged for Dan to come to our TAS centre in GROB Mindleham, where we did a full prove out.
Yep.
And I think as we opened up the project more, the more Napier wanted to see. So the more that we offered and showed them, the more that they seen that they could get. So do you know what I mean? Absolutely.
I think this has got so many different stories within a story, and I think there's so many niceties within this podcast.
It started as just a machine tool, but then it grew into something else, and it grew more and more and more and more.
And it grew very quickly this end, because as we realised that what we thought we could achieve, what we wanted to achieve was possible, it perked a lot of ears up, because I'd like to talk numbers, but we can't be too specific, but the numbers are impressive, and it just grew this end. The more people through the senior management team saw it, see what it could do for the business, it grew legs this end. So
what you're saying is you didn't even realise the full potential that you were investigating until you met Carl. Is that a safe thing to say?
I think we only really believed it when we saw it be proved out.
Right.
Up until that point.
We love that. There's nothing more than having somebody feel that you can't deliver something, and then them stand in front of you and you deliver it.
I don't think you've delivered something, Carl, in my opinion. I think you've overachieved. You've been talking about figures and your expectations, but these expectations have been overachieved, like I've just said. Is that correct? And this story that we're telling in this podcast to our engineering audience, it's about collaboration and trust and relationships, not just the technology. For you to be able to embrace some of this technology, you need to be educated on that technology. And as a consumer or customer, you need to have confidence that it will work, before you invest. And by the sounds of it, you had confidence before you signed on the dotted line.
Yeah, the whole process through those early days was just so confidence inspiring. Every time I run Carl, it was always a positive conversation. Then I used to probably bore Luke to death, the applications guy, because I wanted to know everything. I wanted to know all the nitty gritty of what I was getting myself into. Because at the end of the day, as an engineer, you put your name to a massive project. So yeah.
Can you give figures on monetary value to this project?
I'm looking at Carl now. I don't know. What should we say, Carl? I'll let Carl take this question.
Was it a six-figure project?
Yeah, it was a lot of money.
It was a lot of money. It was a big investment.
Yeah, and we brought together so many things from me as an engineer, being a bit selfish here, sorry, Carl, but we brought together the machine tools, the tooling, the software in one total clean sheet of paper. So I've worked with so many great people through the project.
So it's nice that this is, again, it's really a nice story, because a lot of companies can fall into a trap of always doing things the way that they've always done them and being scared to change. But this clearly illustrates that change can have massive benefits. So let's start going through the changes. The components that are being manufactured on the GROBs are a critical part within the turbochargers, the impellers, if I'm correct. So can you start? I know we've got to be rather sensitive in regards to what we can and can't say, and there's a lot of confidentiality behind these components, but can you tell our audience as much as you can about these components and how it has saved Napier, not just cycle time reductions, cost of part reductions, but all of the other savings, tool life reductions, setup time reductions, and even with the now, which we're probably going to be discussing shortly, the potential to automate these machines too.
So I'll go back a level on that, Joe. We'll talk about the turbocharger themselves. So most people that think turbochargers, you think cars. Our turbochargers weigh as much as your car. So our small ones are a ton, our large ones are getting up to 5 tons. So these are big industrial things. The impellers are made from a grade of aluminium. They basically suck the clean air in, compress it, and give it to the engine. So on a machine point of view, we're looking for high accuracy on that part.
Yeah, and
it's not an easy thing to machine, an impeller. I remember Pete saying it's a bit of a black art.
Yeah, it is, because you've got 4 simultaneous 5-axis of thin-walled components, and you've got maybe 20 blades. So you've got a lot to contend with.
And there's movement in that aluminium as well after taking the roughing cuts. Is that correct? So you've got to be able to allow for kind of movements in the part.
You end up with almost like a sixth sense of how that cut's going to affect the material you leave. And then because they're thin, how that then affects your finishing, your semi-finishing. So it is a black art.
Yeah. I mean, for our audience that don't know, you've got some of the state-of-the-art machines that you were manufacturing the impellers on before. So, the GROB, how has it been a game changer? How has this completely revolutionised the manufacturing of that impeller? Is it the turning aspect on the GROB machine? Is it the horizontal spindle? Can you try and again kind of give as much information as you can in regards to how you've achieved these? And again, we can't tell you exactly, unfortunately, how much savings you have achieved, but it is absolutely astonishing.
Think about the 5-axis milling, which is where the dark art is. I think being horizontal spindle, and quite a powerful spindle as well for aluminium, that's where we gained an awful lot, I think. And you've then got the power to use some of the real advanced roughing strategies and roughing tools that are available in the marketplace, where almost in aluminium the limitation is the machine tool rather than the tool. And also I think it's worth considering that we're doing that on a 550T, which is basically the biggest machine we'll ever need for that part. So we've sort of proved that you can go as fast on a small part on a big machine as we need to, or as you can do.
I'll never forget it when we went to Seiko and we opened up the back doors to the machine, and we explained and showed, why the makeup mechanically, the fundamentals of the machine, why it is the way it is, and just seeing Dan and Pete, they took it on board straight away. And that's obviously, we understand that our concept's a little bit different, but then when you get the chance to stand there and actually show and explain why it's different and the advantages of that, and then you look at the customer or the potential customer, you can just see their face go, I get it, I understand.
Carl, it's been a pleasure coming round with you again today and talking to you as we're going round and being shown around this fantastic facility. And you can see how proud you are, because you're telling me it's not like you just sat, like, again, you've not just sold a machine tool or two machine tools, you've sold a complete solution, and you've helped someone, you've helped a company, you've helped, and for you that means something. And when you were talking to me earlier, you had 100% complete confidence that in your product and in your team that you could, achieve or overachieve the expectations that were asked of you.
Definitely, Gio, from start to finish. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing better than getting a phone call from somebody and they say, we've saw your machine tool, we'd like to buy one, and sign on the dotted line. That's great, yeah, that's great, but it's even better when you can then challenge the customer back and go, well, have you thought about this? Or have you thought about this? Or have you started to look at this? This is what else you can bring to your business. Can you grow it this way? Do you need to check this? Do you need to change process here? So again, that collaboration that GROB UK have and all the experience that we have. So as much as a customer will challenge us, we'll then return it and challenge you back to say, well, maybe you need to look at other stuff as well.
And let's move on to the other stuff. The GROB journey has not yet stopped. So you've bought a G550T, which Carl's just mentioned, but you've also got the smaller version, the G350T.
Yeah.
Now, you've obviously got different size of impellers, and that's the reason for that. Now, you have not really automated processes here before at Napier. I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, to the degree in which we're going to talk about now. So tell us about the next steps in this journey. And automation is a real buzzword around our industry at the minute.
Yeah, like I say, automation's got a massive potential in the future, hasn't it? I think people are starting to realise that. So yeah, one of the things that GROB do really well, if you know them, is system machines and automation. So that was quite a good fit for where we think we could get to. So having the option to be a GROB or GROB automation on a GROB machine was a big benefit.
It was a no-brainer with regards to the size of this investment. It was the right decision to make the machines prepared for automation. Obviously, we all know the way the world's going at the moment, and cost per part is critical. So you need to be prepared for any eventuality. So
UK manufacturer, you've reduced cost per part significantly. Unfortunately, we can't tell our audience how much. You've reduced setup times, handling times, cutting tool costs. There's no, the knock-on effects across the business. It completely revolutionised an absolutely very successful business that's been around for a long time. The other advantages of this that I can see is now that you haven't got to hold stock, you can be more reactive. We're trying to reshore a lot of work. Tell our audience of all these different benefits and how you can really now be even more competitive than you were before.
Yeah, the responsiveness is a massive thing. We've gone from having to hold stock and having reasonable lead times to the lead times come down a lot. You can respond to the customers a lot quicker. So all that's just so much easier on the GROB.
And from a quality perspective as well, what kind of, are you seeing any benefits there? I don't know how all the ins and outs, particularly of your old process, but were there any issues in regards to quality because of it being moved from one machine to another machine to another machine? Have you found quality benefits too?
I think we're still quite early, so it's early days, but I think there is, because we've reduced setups, you get less. You inherently get less, like sort of side to side run out. Mm-hmm. One of the big things as part of the product is we've sort of trusted the Renishaw probing, which is again quite new for us. So we're seeing a lot more consistency across the parts that are manufactured across, say, a batch of 6, because there's less human interaction. So quality wise, I think it'll come that way quite quickly.
Yeah, I mean, we touched upon today about the Renishaw in-cycle probing, and again a really nice feature that's built in with the GROB machine, and And what I want to do now really is move into the digital side of the machine tool as well. Now we've all been through a rough time with COVID, but one thing it certainly has done is it's accelerated digitalization in lots of different industries, not only just the engineering industry. So Carl, moving on to you really, your machine tools are all built in with all different types of Industry 4.0 products that can help enhance the productivity of a business, spindle diagnostics and everything else. Can you kind of tell our listeners, in layman's terms, what the machine tool is capable of digitally?
Well, all our machines are connected remote diagnosis. That's available on all machines. And again, I think we touched on that on a previous podcast, Gio. It's been massively accelerated in COVID. Obviously, logistical nightmare of trying to get service engineers where they need to be at certain times has been difficult. So having that tool with regards to remote access and then Industry 4 products to try and get, if there is a problem, to try and get that machine up and running as efficiently and effectively as possible. I think it's literally a no-brainer now. Yeah. Every machine's going to be connected with regards to remote diagnosis.
And I think some of the stuff that we're talking in this podcast really lends itself to all industries: collaboration, trust, technology, automation, digitalization, and I'm sorry about this, Dan. I haven't mentioned your age yet. You're only 25 years of age. Now, the younger generation of engineers coming into this industry is brilliant to see. And we also spoke to your apprentice, I believe, Matt, who's literally just coming to the end of his apprenticeship. And I've never met, in my time, such a knowledgeable apprentice ever. He's already programming, running the GROBs quite comfortably, I can say. And these are machine tools that some of the older generation are a little bit scared of, and it really proves that they shouldn't be scared of them at all.
No, they shouldn't. I mean, like I say, we've got a great team of engineers here, so we've leaned on the more senior members of the team a lot, but have also been given the freedom really at quite young ages to sort of run with it and make it our own baby, really, to be honest.
So what are the next steps for you here at Napier?
Very good question, Joe. It could be so many things depending on what happens coming out of COVID with Brexit. I don't want to get into all that, but it just depends what happens. But it's definitely, this has been the start of a big change in the manufacturing here. I think this will snowball, and I think we'll start looking at the rest of our manufacturing processes.
It's definitely been a game changer. Yeah. It's definitely been a game changer.
It's been a game changer. I can see that, and as it opened your eyes as a business to think, to have a look at yourselves and say, you know what, we were successful, but we can be even more successful now. Is some of these new strategies that you've kind of learnt about over the last year or so, is it something that you're looking to adopt in different areas?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely been an eye-opener for the whole team of manufacturing engineers here. Just the complacency is maybe the wrong word, but you can...
Yeah, it's not complacency. I think it's when you get comfortable.
Yeah.
And there's no necessity to grow or look elsewhere or look at yourself in the mirror. But when someone does, and then you realise, hang on a minute, do we need to look a bit further? Do we need to look over there? Do we need to look over there? And then you start analysing a little bit more, and you realise that the technology that's out there and that's available and accessible,
it's unbelievable, really.
Yeah,
it's absolutely unbelievable. I mean, you're in a very luxurious position that you didn't really have to look in the mirror, as Carl alluded to, because you're in such a niche market and you're a market leader in what you do. Yeah. So you didn't really need to improve. So the fact that you have improved is absolutely brilliant. And as a young engineer, in your opinion, would you recommend this kind of technology to all engineers, whether they be small subcontractors or other larger OEM companies such as yourselves, where they can be maybe are a bit complacent?
Yeah, definitely recommend the technology. But like you say, from the guy who's doing one-offs, you still need to do a one-off quickly, don't you? As much as a batch of a batch like what we do. So yeah, I think the technology is great.
I think that's the beauty of the GROB concept as well. It's not necessarily a dedicated machine, and obviously the name or the brand, the universal machine, it's applicable to all industries, all sectors, and it will give you advantages across all of it, no matter what material.
Again, Carl, this is a different sector that we've looked upon before.
Another patch that we're covering, another area that we're being successful improving in.
Carl, brilliant. And I'm going to just wrap up really in just a few final questions, but I just want to touch on education with you, Dan. It's brilliant. We've just mentioned Matt, but how important is education and changing the perception of engineering in the UK to attract the best young talent?
Yeah, it's crucial, I think. I think coming through the apprenticeship route and then into a degree, it gives you the best of both worlds. You can see it hands-on and you can back it with the academia, which is great. And I encourage anybody younger than me to look at it as a career seriously, because I think UK manufacturing's, we need to be proud of it and we need to grow it. And
I've got 2 more questions for you, Dan, before you go. One, I've heard a rumour that you listen to the MTD podcast. Is that true? And what do you think of it?
I do listen to you, yeah. I'm a big listener. I like them. I like what you guys are doing for UK manufacturing, so I listen to them all. I even watch other videos.
Brilliant. Yeah. And this is probably a silly question, but as Carl and GROB Machine Tools UK passed the test or passed the challenge?
I think so. No,
he paused far too long then, Dan. Paused far too long.
Yeah. No, it's been a really amazing experience, like you say, Joe. Fairly young engineer, new through it. Everyone's been great. The machines have delivered on what they said they would. Yeah, happy engineer and a very happy business.
No, Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you very much again for opening your doors to MTD. We'll also be seeing some videos on what we've discussed in the coming weeks. Carl, thanks for inviting MTD to report on this. It's another great positive engineering story, and we need to be doing a lot more of these, not just MTD, but everyone needs to be reporting on these fantastic engineering stories. But Carl, any last thoughts?
Contact GROB. We're waiting for your challenges. And just going back on the other point, I think I'm a little bit jealous of the young engineers, because the technology that's available today, that's accessible. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Deadman, he's a bit long in the tooth now, but he did say, didn't he? He says, You know what, Matt, he's only 21 and he's working on technology like that. I'd love to have done that.
Unbelievable.
And, it is, brilliant.
Yeah,
absolutely
state of the art, the latest machines.
But the young
available.
Kids need to be seeing this. This is the point that we want to get across. They're not, they watch TV and they're still seeing, dirty old workshops with oily floors and knee mills and swarf going all over them, and it's not like that no more. And I think that
further from the truth.
We are at the cutting edge of technology now, and some of these places that we visit are absolutely fantastic. Guys, it's been a true pleasure. Thank you very much. And
thanks, Gio.
Thanks, Joe.
So, until next week, the MTD podcast, educating and shedding light on our great engineering industry. Make sure to leave your comments, subscribe, and let us know what you think. The MTD podcast.
Thanks for listening to the MTD podcast. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. Find more episodes on mtdcnc.com.